What if everything you thought about earning what you get, about striving and achievement, what if it was fundamentally flawed? Not just like economically flawed, but maybe spiritually misaligned.
That's a big thought to start with.
It is, isn't it? We live in this world that's constantly telling us, work hard, earn your keep, strive for what you want. It's so ingrained.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the air we breathe, almost, culturally, philosophically.
Right. From school lessons right up to the success stories we see everywhere. But our sources today, they suggest something, well, pretty radical.
A completely different way.
Exactly. A divinely ordained alternative that really challenges that whole paradigm. And it's not just about like changing your mindset. It's about understanding a foundational truth.
A truth that could change things practically.
Potentially, yes. The claim is it could transform how you live, especially, when we see things like soaring prices hitting everyone's finances, causing so much anxiety right now.
Okay, that feels very relevant.
Yeah. So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack a really rich collection of theological insights. We'll be looking mainly at specific biblical interpretations that seem to light up this path to living without that constant anxiety, where this idea of divine provision sort of supersedes our human effort.
Okay. Divine provision over striving.
That's the core tension. Now, just to be clear, this is a deep dive into a very specific viewpoint, right?
Right, we're exploring these sources.
Exactly. Our aim is just to understand and present its arguments clearly, kind of illuminate the ideas and the source material for your understanding, listening in. We're not, endorsing it necessarily, but exploring these profound claims.
Got it. Let's dive in.
Okay. So the world as we experience it, it operates on this really clear principle. It's captured perfectly in that Chinese proverb, 五pierre.
You reap what you sow.
Exactly. Or maybe even more directly, work for wages.
The foundation of, pretty much everything, isn't it? Economics, relationships.
It seems like it. You work hard, you get paid, you put effort into relationships, you get friends, you hit the gym, you get healthier. It feels completely logical.
It's reinforced everywhere. School rewards study, jobs reward productivity. Makes sense.
It does. If you apply yourself, you generally see results. If you're careful with people, they respond well. It really feels like the undeniable natural order.
But there's a catch, you're saying, based on these sources.
There is a critical catch, a limitation.
Yeah.
This whole work for wages thing implies that the moment you stop trying, the second your effort drops,
you risk losing it all.
Right. What you've gained, it creates this relentless cycle, doesn't it? Constant striving just to maintain, let alone get ahead.
Like being on a treadmill.
Exactly. A treadmill that feels like it's speeding up, especially, with global inflation the way it is. You feel like you're running harder just to stay put.
Just to cover the basics, the food, the energy costs.
Yeah, it's a system that just breeds anxiety.
Okay, so here's where it gets fascinating and maybe a bit counterintuitive for a lot of us. What we see is that natural order, that work for wages reality. It's actually presented in our source material as, a curse or a judgment.
The curse, not just
the way things are, not according to this interpretation. It's a huge theological claim. The source traces it right back to the beginning, to the fall of Adam and Eve.
In the Garden of Eden.
Exactly. When they committed that first sin, God issued specific judgments that basically reshaped their existence and, by extension, ours.
Okay, what were those specific judgments?
Think about it. For Adam, it was, by the sweat of your brow you will eat your food. Before that, in the garden, provision was effortless, no hard labor needed.
Right. Food, clothing, just provided.
And then it shifted to intense physical work. And for the relationship, the judgment was, you shall desire your husband and he shall rule over you. These weren't just, natural fallouts. They were divine pronouncements, judgments for that first sin.
Wow. So the implication.
The implication is huge. It means the entire world, with all its demands for effort and earning, is operating under this judgment.
So what feels normal to us?
Is actually, from this theological viewpoint, a consequence of departing from grace. This constant striving, earning, fearing loss. It's a result of sin, making life this struggle for basics, for peace.
Okay, that completely reframes the treadmill feeling. If the work for wages system is a judgment, what's the alternative? How do we get off?
Well, that's the hopeful part.
Yeah.
The sources present this profound message. Jesus, through his life, death, resurrection, he reversed this judgment.
Reversed it. So there's a new path. A different way to operate.
Exactly. A new way became available.
But is it automatic for everyone?
That's key. The source emphasizes its access specifically through the realm of faith for those who believe.
Okay, so it's faith-based, not universal.
Right. The new path to provision isn't through the old work for wages striving. It's a radical shift. It's about receiving freely through Jesus Christ.
Receiving freely, not earning.
Correct. This concept, sometimes called justification by faith or righteousness by faith, it means you're standing with God, your ability to receive, comes from trusting what Jesus did, not your own efforts.
That's a massive departure, a huge shift in understanding provision, well-being.
It really is.
And the promise, if you really grasp this, is sahalecha, without worries about food and clothing.
Literally. That's the claim.
Think about that for a second, especially now with everyone worried about inflation, energy costs, just affording basics. Imagine being free from that stress.
Not because you suddenly got rich through your own work.
But because of a different divine mechanism that's already secured it.
That's the core idea. It's echoed in Matthew 6, where Jesus says, basically, don't worry about what you'll eat or wear. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you.
Right. I remember that.
And that passage points to a principle of sacrifice as the mechanism. But, and this is crucial, it's not your sacrifice to earn things.
It's Jesus' sacrifice.
Exactly. His ultimate sacrifice enables you to receive freely. It flips the world system completely, from earning to receiving what's already paid for.
Wow. Okay.
So to help us get our heads around this radical idea of the kingdom and shifting from earning to receiving, Jesus used parables. Lots of them.
Right. The stories.
Yeah. In Matthew 13, he gives several key ones. And our source offers a deeper, often overlooked interpretation.
Okay. Because the usual take on, say, the treasure or the pearl.
Yeah. The common misunderstanding is that you have to be the one selling everything. Give up all your stuff, your ambitions, maybe even your life to get the treasure of heaven.
Which sounds impossible, or at least makes you feel totally inadequate, like you can never do enough.
Exactly. It breeds more anxiety, more striving. You look at your own limits and think, I'll never measure up.
So what's the corrective interpretation from the source?
It flips it entirely. Instead of us selling everything, the source says, we are the treasure, and Jesus is the man. He saw us, and he sold everything he had to redeem us.
Whoa. Okay, so we're the treasure. He's the one who paid the price.
Precisely. It shifts the focus completely off our striving and onto God's initiative in Jesus. It's about what he gave up to get us.
That changes everything.
It does. And the source goes deeper. It mentions an insight that apparently came as a question from Jesus himself. Why did I write 3 parables for the same truth?
Implying they aren't exactly the same truth.
Or rather, they show different dimensions, different layers of that one huge sacrifice. And this connects fascinatingly to the 5 types of offerings in the Old Testament.
Okay. So Jesus' one sacrifice covered all those different aspects.
That's the idea. His one act encompassed the power of all those ancient offerings, dealing with sin, trespass, material loss, everything.
Right.
One perfect sacrifice covered it all.
Okay, that's profound. Let's unpack that first parable then, the treasure hidden in a field. Matthew 13.44. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. So the source says the man is Jesus. The treasure is us, the believers. But the key detail is he bought the field, not just the treasure.
Exactly. And that field, according to the source, represents the world.
The whole world, not just individual.
The entire material realm. So Jesus' act wasn't just about saving souls, it was a huge redemptive transaction covering the physical world too.
Okay. How does that connect to the Old Testament offerings?
It links powerfully to the trespass offering, the shukan shukanshi. That offering dealt with restitution, compensation for material wrongs, things taken or damaged.
Right, like paying back what was stolen plus extra.
Yeah, often plus 20%.
Yeah.
And the source suggests this principle, fulfilled in Jesus, even extends beyond just human interactions. Like when God promised to restore what the locusts ate, it's a principle of restoration, even overcompensation.
So the implication for us listening, especially when we're feeling squeezed by rising costs, is what?
It's pretty staggering. This means that all things in this world have already been given to those who believe through Jesus.
All things. That starts huge.
It is. And it's grounded in that completed transaction. Think about Romans 8.32. He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things.
Okay, but why did God need to buy the world? Couldn't he just give?
Good question. The source explains it through God's justice. He can't just hand out good things to the unworthy without being unjust himself. It would violate his nature.
So Jesus had to pay the price first.
Exactly. He bought the world as a redemption price, making it legally and justly right for God to then freely give. He paid the unimaginable cost.
Which is totally different from us trying to earn it through work for wages.
Completely.
Yeah.
Even if you could earn the whole world through effort. Well, what good is it without life itself? Jesus bought it. He paid the price not just for souls, but for the material world and everything good in it.
That really lifts the burden, thinking about how hard we strive just to make ends meet sometimes.
It's meant to. So building on that universal redemption, the second parable, the pearl of great price, Matthew 13.45-46. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it.
Okay. And the source says,
We are the pearl. This represents the more specific personal side, the salvation of the soul, spiritual rebirth, individual justification.
so more focused than the field.
Exactly. This links to the sin offering, the shu suziji. While the trespass offering dealt with material wrongs and restitution, the sin offering was about cleansing individual sin, the moral separation from God. It was targeted for spiritual cleansing.
Got it. So the treasure in the field is broad scope, the whole world, material restitution. The pearl is targeted, individual spiritual salvation.
Precisely. Both vital, both achieved by Jesus, but addressing different, equally crucial dimensions of his work.
Okay. And the third parable, the fishing net, Matthew 13.47-50. The net catches all kinds of fish, good and bad, then they're sorted out at the end. Separation, judgment.
Right. This speaks to selection in ultimate judgment, distinguishing between those who accept the grace and those who don't.
But how does that fit with God's love?
Well, the source emphasizes God's universal love first. John 3.16, God loved the world, or cosmos in Greek. This universal love, bushidei, extends generally to all creation.
Like the sun shining on everyone.
Exactly. Or rain falling on good and bad. General benevolence, provision for all.
Okay, but then there's something more specific.
Yes. The source highlights God's even greater love, using the word philia, shenchi, calling it a seismic word. While universal love is broad, there's a specific self-sacrificing love, agape, shijidei, for believers. This is where he gave his only son.
So not sparing Jesus was because of this greater love for us.
That's the interpretation. It goes beyond general benevolence to ultimate personal sacrifice for the chosen.
Okay. And the fourth parable, the householder, Matthew 13.51-52. Jesus asks if they understand. They say yes, and then he talks about a teacher of the law becoming a disciple who brings out new and old treasures.
Yes. And Jesus' question, have you understood all these things, is critical. The source says truly understanding these kingdom truths requires grasping justification by faith.
Like Nicodemus needing to be born again to even see the kingdom.
Exactly. You can't fully get it without the Spirit's illumination. And the teacher of the law, the scribe, becoming a disciple of the kingdom, that's a massive transformation.
From teaching law to preaching grace.
Right. And new and old treasures, and new covenant grace, new self. Old covenant law, old self, they must be separated.
Like Paul saying, I'm crucified with Christ. The old is gone.
Precisely. The scribe needs retraining, basically, to separate the old mindset of earning from the new reality of grace.
This separation idea, not mixing old and new, seems absolutely central. Luke 5.36 has that proverb, right, about the new patch on an old garment.
Yes. No one tears a patch from a new garment and sews it on an old one. If he does, he will have torn the new garment, and the patch from the new will not match the old.
And the interpretation is pretty direct.
Very clear. You can't partly rely on works and partly on grace. You can't be spirit-led and still trying to keep the law to earn favor. They're mismatched.
Galatians says, if you're led by the Spirit, you're not under law.
Exactly. Once you grasp Jesus' completed work, you don't go back to the work for wages mentality for righteousness or provision. Mixing them just tears the new thing apart.
So for us listening, this understanding is part of that renewal of your mind the Bible talks about.
The deep internal shift. And yeah, it can feel strange because it cuts against so much of our cultural programming.
It helps to have an analogy, maybe.
The source uses one like this. Imagine your dad paid for a massive all-you-can-eat buffet. Everything covered, paid in full up front.
Oh, okay.
You wouldn't then go try to pay the cashier again, would you?
No, of course not.
Or feel like you should only take a tiny plate because it feels like charity?
No, you know it was paid for. A gift maybe, but fully secured.
Right. You know it's already paid for. So from this grace perspective, even your efforts get redefined. They aren't work for wages anymore.
What are they then?
They're seen as grace received from Jesus. Even the strength to try, the energy to work, it all comes from him.
The source calls it a simple truth, but difficult for some.
Because it hits our self-reliance, our ego, our idea that we have to earn our worth. It shifts the source of everything from us to Christ.
And the other parable reinforces this separation. New wine, old wineskins. Luke 5:37-38.
Exactly. No one pours new wine into old wineskins. If he does, the new wine will burst the skins, the wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, new wine must be poured into new wineskins.
So new wine is?
Justification by faith, the new covenant, grace-based thinking.
And old wineskins.
Trying to cram those new truths back into the old, rigid framework of the law, of earning, of rules, old mindsets.
And if you mix them, disaster.
You lose both, the source warns. You don't get the joy and freedom of grace because you're still worried about rules and striving. And you can't keep the law perfectly anyway. So you end up with neither. They must be separated.
Isn't there a common idea, though, that the Holy Spirit helps us keep the law better?
That's a misconception the source directly addresses. It argues the Spirit empowers us to break free from the law through Jesus, to see ourselves as dead to the law.
So the Spirit gives strength for freedom, not legalism.
Exactly. So your new mindset of grace needs a new system of life, a renewed mind, not the old rule-based one. New wine, new wineskins.
Which brings us to that really challenging verse, Luke 5:39. And no one after drinking old wine wants the new, for he says, the old is better.
Yeah, that one cuts deep into human nature.
It explains why the religious leaders resisted Jesus so much. They drunk the old wine of law and tradition.
And they genuinely preferred it. They didn't want the new wine of grace.
Why not? What's the root cause?
The source points to human self-righteousness. Rendezvous. People like the work for wages principle, fundamentally.
Because it lets them glorify themselves, feel in control, earn their worth.
Pretty much. It's uncomfortable for the ego to admit something so vital. Salvation, provision, worth is freely given by God. We want to feel like we did it.
The source notes successful people often credit only their hard work, right? Forgetting grace or circumstance.
Yeah, they talk about their effort, discipline, intelligence, often overlooking the underlying grace or divine direction that made it possible. And you see that in discussions today, too, about wealth or poverty, especially with rising costs. It's often all framed as individual effort, ignoring other factors.
There's that fascinating point about Thomas Edison, too.
Right, the famous quote, "Genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration," used everywhere to stress hard work.
But there's more to it.
The source reveals the missing half, apparently often omitted, especially in some places. Edison, a Christian, supposedly added, but that 1% inspiration is more important than 99% perspiration.
Wow. So inspiration or direction is key.
That's the critical factor, direction. For God, not just raw effort. You can perspire all you want, but if you're running hard in the wrong direction.
Proverbs says, there is a way that appears right, but its end is the way to death.
Exactly. And Jesus asked, what good of it to gain the whole world and forfeit your soul? So understanding that divine direction and grace are more vital than sheer effort. The source claims they can greatly transform your finances, your career, your view of wealth.
Especially when soaring prices make it feel like sheer effort is the only answer.
Right. Effort matters, but direction and receiving grace are paramount.
Okay, so Jesus reverses the judgment, but does he also compensate, like make up for losses?
Yes, and this is where it gets really interesting. Divine compensation, often far beyond just making things even, it connects back to that trespass offering.
From Leviticus 6.
Right. Remember, that dealt with quantifiable sinful acts, things that cause material loss.
And the rule was restore it, plus add a fifth.
Restore it, add 20%, and bring a ram without defect as the offering. If the item was gone, pay its value plus the 20%.
Okay, how does that apply to us now? We're being robbed.
The source argues yes, in many ways. Not just literal theft. Think traffic tickets, unexpected financial loss, illness taking health, loss of joy, peace, maybe an investment tanks, or just the constant erosion of purchasing power from inflation. That's a kind of theft, isn't it? The world, under Adam's judgment, takes from us.
Constantly. Okay.
But here's the liberating part. Jesus is the ram without defect. His one sacrifice, the source says, contains the power of all those Old Testament offerings.
Including the trespass offering.
Absolutely. He's a complete payment for all damage, all loss. And you, as a believer, are now a royal priest.
Which means
You're in a position of authority to receive this divine compensation. Even past failures don't disqualify you. Before God, through Jesus, all sins can be paid for. And it's not just getting back what was lost.
it's the 1 ox for 5 oxen principle. Overcompensation.
Exactly. Even if the one who caused the loss can't repay, God provides and often multiplies it because Jesus paid the ultimate price. It's a promise of supernatural provision, hugely relevant when you feel that economic pinch.
That overcompensation idea is amazing. Not just getting back to zero, but surplus. It connects to Psalm 69.4, doesn't it? About restoring what wasn't stolen.
Yes, prophetically speaking of Jesus, they hate me without cause. What I did not steal must I now restore. It's Jesus as the ultimate trespass offering, repaying for what was stolen from us, even though he didn't steal it.
Bearing our losses, our injustices.
Willingly, because of his infinite abundance, the immeasurable value of his sacrifice, its compensation beyond our wildest dreams.
And this leads to that really interesting reaction the source mentions. When people who get this experience lost, they feel happy.
Yeah, it sounds strange, but the idea is their first reaction isn't despair, but this quiet confidence, this happiness, because they expect the 1 ox for 5 oxen in return.
Not being flippant, but confident in God's restorative power.
Exactly. Confident he won't just replace, but multiply. But big warning here, don't try to cause loss to get more.
Right. That's testing God. Back to work for wages.
Precisely. It's about receiving in faith, not manipulating the system.
And this reimbursement is always according to righteousness. Psalm 18.24 says God rewarded David according to his righteousness.
Crucial point. God will not repay sinners in the same way because from a strict justice view, their loss might be seen as just. He acts for the righteous.
But that's the problem, isn't it? How can we claim righteousness based on our own actions? Job couldn't. Our conscience condemns us.
Exactly the dilemma. And the solution, again, is Jesus. He's our mediator, Jean Bao, our advocate. He speaks for us. We don't stand in our own flawed righteousness.
We stand in his body.
We stand in his. So what is this righteousness that God rewards? 2 aspects, according to the source. First, primarily, it's being seen as correct by God. Because of Jesus. It's imputed righteousness, a gift, a legal declaration.
Like being declared innocent because someone else paid the debt.
Perfect analogy. Second, it's God's divinity manifesting in your humanity. The fruit of the Spirit, the new nature that flows from grace.
So because we're seen as righteous through Jesus,
because of that imputed righteousness, you can confidently approach God and claim repayment for what's been stolen or damaged, finances, health, peace, knowing Jesus paid in full. God must satisfy justice, and he does it through Jesus for you. That unlocks provision, even when prices are soaring.
that understanding of imputed righteousness, it's truly life-changing. It leads right into Romans 5, especially verse 17.
Yes, a pivotal verse. For if, by the trespass of the one man, death reigned through that one man, how much more will those who receive God's abundant provision of grace and of the gift of righteousness reign in life through the one man, Jesus Christ?
Okay, death reigned.
Yeah.
That's separation from God, right? Not just physical death.
Primarily separation from God, the source of life. Adam's sin brought that in. And the amazing contrast is reigning in life.
Meaning being in control, not oppressed by poverty, sickness, anxiety about costs, having peace, abundance.
That's the picture. Dominion in all circumstances. And the reason...
Jesus Christ alone, not our effort.
Correct. But here's the key insight from the source.
Yeah.
You have to first let go.
Let go of what?
Of trying to control it all yourself.
Yeah.
The source uses Jacob wrestling with God as an analogy. God allows difficulties to steward, or the law, to push us to see our weakness, our inability to earn it, so we turn to Jesus genuinely.
So we don't become robots.
Right. It fosters real faith. And when you finally admit defeat, surrender control, rely totally on Him, paradoxically, God says, you win. That's when the reigning starts.
Wow. Letting go to win. That leads into Romans 5.1819 then, about the one trespass leading to condemnation, but the one righteous act leading to justification.
Exactly. Consequently, just as one trespass resulted in condemnation for all people, so also one righteous act resulted in justification and life for all people.
So our good deeds, our righteous acts,
Are totally unrelated to earning justification. They're a result of it. Obedience, good works, they flow naturally after you're justified by Jesus' one act. Don't rely on your actions for justification. Rely on his.
that takes so much pressure off. Okay, what about Romans 5.20? The law was brought in so that the trespass might increase, but where sin increased, grace increased all the more. Law makes sin increase.
Yeah, it sounds weird. The original meaning of brought in implies a violent intrusion. The law doesn't just reveal sin, it actively exposes more of it. So more law, more sin becomes apparent.
Like shining a brighter light shows more dust.
Good way to put it. Why would God do that? Well, like for children, the law acts as a guide, reveals wrong. It's needed for those who don't yet grasp grace. But the ultimate solution isn't avoiding law, it's Jesus.
Okay, and why does grace increase more where sin increased?
Because of Jesus' overcompensating sacrifice, that one ox for 5 oxen idea again, divine multiplication in response to recognized failure.
But crucially, this isn't an invitation to sin more to get more grace.
Absolutely not. That's twisting it back into work for wages. No, your sin abounds here by truly recognizing your own weakness, your inability, your sinfulness. Like Paul boasting in weakness so God's power rests on him, recognizing you can't earn it is where grace floods in.
So the true focus isn't avoiding rules, but focusing on what Jesus did.
Precisely. The source observes many religious folks focus on methods organizing things, raising funds instead of just relying on Jesus daily for everything. True reliance, understanding grace, makes life easy and free, even with rising costs.
Which brings us to the punchline in Romans 5.21, the verse to memorize.
Yes. So that just as sin reigned in death, so also grace might reign through righteousness to bring eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Okay, break that down. Sin reigned, death, separation. Grace reigns through righteousness of life, abundance, peace.
And the absolute key, the channel for grace reigning, is your deep understanding that you are seen as righteous in God's eyes. That imputed righteousness, DGG, that gift status.
Independent of your performance.
Totally. Which leads to that provocative statement from the source.
If you still feel like a sinner, it means you don't understand the gospel. That's strong.
It is. And it needs careful understanding. It's not about denying we commit sinful acts. We do. It's about your fundamental nature, your identity before God. Because of Jesus, your essence is changed. You're declared white, righteous, not black, sinful.
And that given righteousness allows you to debate with God, claim what was lost.
Yes. To come confidently and claim repayment for financial hits, health issues, lost peace because Jesus paid. And the compensation, overcompensation.
Far beyond 20%, like 1 ox for 5, or even 100-fold.
Potentially. The source says, remarkably, the amount depends on your appetite for receiving, how much you're willing to take by faith.
Like Jesus telling the disciples they had little faith, it wasn't a scolding, but an invitation to.
Take more. Exactly, like that paid-for buffet, why only take a tiny bit. Faith is taking advantage of Jesus' grace, embracing the full extent of his provision.
But self-righteousness gets in the way.
Big time. Grace has no attraction for the self-righteous. They prefer earning it. They feel uncomfortable with free benefits. They want to be upright people, who don't take advantage even of God's free gifts. That pride blocks receiving.
Okay, this ties into rewards and humility then. Matthew 20, the mother of James and John, asks Jesus for top spots in the kingdom for her sons.
Right. Kneeling down, asking for seats at his right and left.
What they wanted was position, glory, pure ambition.
Yep. But glory, the source states flatly, cannot be earned by human effort. Jesus himself said, he didn't accept glory from humans. Trying to earn glory is pure work for wages thinking, opposed to grace.
And Jesus' answer shows how much they misunderstood. Matthew 20.22-23. You don't know what you're asking. Can you drink the cup I am going to drink?
They say, we can. Naively. Jesus says, you will indeed drink my cup, but to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by my Father.
You don't know what you're asking because they didn't get the price of salvation, the price Jesus paid.
Exactly, like Jesus on the cross. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Humans don't grasp the cost of sin. Only Jesus paid it.
And the cup, that's the suffering, bearing sin and death.
The bitter cup. For believers, Drinking the cup isn't self-inflicted suffering to earn points. It's identifying with Jesus' death to the law, to the old system, crucified with Christ.
It's not imitating his suffering, but recognizing he did it for us. He became poor so we could be rich, etc.
Precisely. Trying to bear sin ourselves through guilt, feeling unworthy, self-punishment that's just fleshly effort. It falls back into trying to pay a price already paid in full.
And the rewards, the seats of glory, not for me to grant, prepared by my Father.
Meaning rewards, glory, they're not earned by our striving. They're based on predestination, yiding, and the Spirit's work. God's sovereign choice. You can't hustle your way to a bigger reward.
David got that, didn't he? Letting God choose his reward.
Believing God's choice would be better than anything he could achieve himself.
And the other disciples getting angry, that just shows their work for wages mindset again, seeing it as a selfish status grab.
Yeah, they were indignant because they still thought position was earned or based on merit within the group. They didn't get grace.
So Jesus teaches them about true leadership, not lording it over others like the Gentiles.
But whoever wants to be great must be your servant. Whoever wants to be first must be your slave. The world's way is being served. The kingdom way is serving.
But connecting back, Jesus already did that for us. He became the servant, the slave, the good shepherd laying down his life.
Exactly. He fulfilled that principle to the ultimate degree, which leads to his final statement there.
The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. That ransom ties it all together. Redeeming the world, fulfilling all the offerings, our worth, place, glory, provision not earned, but given through his completed work.
Which makes him our ultimate guarantor, doesn't it? Proverbs 20.16 talks about taking the garment of someone who guarantees a stranger's debt.
Worldly wisdom often reads that as, don't be a guarantor, you'll get burned. Self-protection.
But then Hebrews 7.22 flips it completely.
Radically. Because of this oath, Jesus has become the guarantor of a better covenant. Jesus is our guarantor.
So what we owe, what we lack, what the world takes, whether it's money in tight times, health, peace, Jesus pays for you. That's the staggering truth. The exchange is profound. Jesus' clothes are gone, euphumela. His robe of righteousness is put on us. We stand clean, provided for.
Not by our effort, but by his substitution.
Entirely.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, Jesus surely bore our sins, our transgressions. He's our mediator, Jean-Beau. Paid the full overcompensating price, reversed the judgment, opened the way to receive freely.
That's his core message.
It's this profound shift, isn't it? From living under that work for wages, curse the anxiety, the striving to living by freely receiving through Jesus's finished overcompensating sacrifice. And the implications are huge, practical for your finances, your health, your peace of mind, how you see your own effort and worth, especially when things feel uncertain, like with rising costs now.
Absolutely. So if Jesus paid for the whole buffet and he's encouraging you to take more, the question becomes, what areas are you still trying to earn? Where do you still feel unworthy to receive? How does this radical grace, this divine compensation, really challenge those deep beliefs about self-reliance, success, even being good?
Yeah.
Maybe the final thought is, how can you loosen your grip on that work for wages default mode and really step into fully embrace the freely received abundance that's already yours in him?
It's a liberation, really, from that endless treadmill.
An invitation into peace and provision,